For almost a century, there's been this one book, kind of like a secret weapon for navigating the super tricky world of human relationships. So today, we're going to unpack Dale Carnegie's masterpiece, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and find out why its core ideas might be more important right now than ever before.
Right? We've all been there, totally confused by a coworker, frustrated with a family member, or just wishing you knew the right thing to say. It's a feeling everyone gets. And it turns out, wanting a solution is just as universal.
$25,000. Back in the day, that's what the University of Chicago spent on a huge 2-year survey to figure out one thing. What do adults really want to learn? The answer they found is the whole reason this book even exists.
And that survey, it didn't point to things like making more money or learning some new tech skill. Nope. It uncovered something way more fundamental to just being a person.
And there it is. Seriously. After our own health, the one thing we're most interested in is, each other. How to get along with people, how to understand them. This discovery showed a massive gap. That practical instruction manual for people, it just didn't exist. So Dale Carnegie decided he'd write it. And this is where Carnegie comes into the picture. He wasn't some academic, disconnected from the real world. He was more like an investigator on a mission to find out what actually works when you're dealing with people.
Carnegie just wasn't interested in theories that only sounded good. He wanted the stuff that got real results. So he turned his adult education courses into this living laboratory to really pressure test his methods in the wild.
And this, right here, is what gives his work so much weight. These ideas weren't cooked up in a library. They were hammered out and proven by thousands of real people, businessmen, homemakers, you name it, who tried his techniques and reported back on what worked and what totally bombed. This timeline is amazing because it shows the whole journey. This book wasn't just written, it was built piece by piece. It started as a tiny set of rules on a postcard, and then for 15 years, it grew and evolved through constant, real-world testing into the classic we all know today. So, after all that research, all those years of testing, what was the #1 most important secret Carnegie found about influencing people? Well, it's a really simple shift in how you think, but it changes everything. Our gut instinct, our default setting, is always to start on the left side of the slide, talking about what we want, what we need. But Carnegie's biggest breakthrough was realizing that real influence only happens when you completely flip that script. You got to stop focusing on yourself and start talking about what they want.
And this quote from Henry Ford, it pretty much became Carnegie's mantra. He was convinced that if you can genuinely, truly see the world from someone else's point of view, you can do almost anything. But if you can't, you're basically destined to walk a pretty lonely road. It's the one skill that changes the whole game.
So, okay, how do we actually do that? How do we put this big secret into practice? Well, Carnegie breaks it down into these simple, timeless rules. Let's dig into 3 of the most powerful ones. This first rule from Carnegie is a tough one because it goes against every single one of our instincts. So why is criticizing so useless? Because what he found was that 99 times out of 100, people don't actually blame themselves for anything. All criticism does is wound their pride and immediately throw them on the defensive.
Even Abraham Lincoln learned this the hard way. After one of his generals let a trapped army escape, Lincoln was furious. He wrote this absolutely scathing letter, but he never sent it. He had this moment where he realized, you know what? This will just make me feel better for a second, but it's only going to make me defensive and less effective later. Lincoln knew that harsh criticism pretty much always ends in failure.
So, what's the deepest craving in human nature? It's not food, it's not sleep, it's the desire to feel important. And this is where we have to separate cheap flattery from honest, sincere appreciation. Flattery's fake, it's counterfeit. But sincere recognition? Carnegie said that's like legal tender that all souls enjoy. There's this great story about a lawyer visiting his wife's elderly aunt, and he just took a moment to genuinely admire her old treasured antiques. Well, the aunt, who was probably starved for a little recognition, was so touched that she gave him her prized Packard car, saying he was the one who could truly appreciate it.
I mean, that's the power of making someone feel genuinely important.
And this third rule brings us right back to the book's biggest secret. The whole point isn't to shove your ideas down someone's throat. It's to frame your ideas in a way that makes the other person want to join you, because they can see what's in it for them.
Andrew Carnegie, the industrialist, was a total master of this. He wanted to sell steel rails to the Pennsylvania Railroad, which was run by a guy named J. Edgar Thompson. So what does he do? He goes and builds a brand new giant steel mill and names it the Edgar Thomson Steel Works. I mean, come on. He baited the hook to suit the fish, and no surprise, he got the contract.
Okay, so now you know the principles, but Carnegie was super clear that just knowing them is totally useless. This book was never meant to be something you just read. It's an action guide for literally changing your daily habits. This quote was everything to Carnegie's philosophy. This is an action book. The goal isn't just to collect information in your head, it's to actually form new habits, to try a new way of living. And that, well, that takes practice.
So Carnegie lays out a simple system. First, read to really get it, don't just skim. Then, constantly be asking yourself, okay, how can I use this? When can I apply this? Third, you have to practice every single day, at every chance you get. And finally, review it all often. He says you need a constant and vigorous campaign to build new habits.
Carnegie wraps up his introduction with this really profound thought from the psychologist William James. He truly believed that every single one of us has these amazing powers that we just habitually fail to use. The whole point of his work was to help you find those dormant assets and put them to work. So the real question is, what are you going to do with them?